On today's Independent Arts Report, we speak with Nichole Anderson, the president and CEO of the organization Business of the Arts. Hi, Nichole, and thank you for joining us today.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm very well.
So I was wondering if you can tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got involved in the arts, and how that involvement has led your career.
Sure. Well, involvement in the arts has gone back since I can remember. Started with violin, at the age of 3. And in university, thought about pursuing the violin as a career path, and decided to try different things at that point. So from international relations, and probably a lot of your students can relate when you sort of decide to explore other avenues, you really do try everything. Just noticed that I had a bit of a knack for business, was a bit entrepreneurial, as well as loved the art, and that stayed with me. Did a master's in art history. At the same time, I was volunteering for an art gallery, and that became more of a position, the commercial art gallery. And I really love the creative environment, but again, the business side of it as well. So that role and working with artists, the idea of helping artists succeed, that appealed. And from there, found a position with, it was managing a corporate art collection with the Hudson's Bay Company, and this is right after I graduated with a master's in art history. And so I was interested in exploring that world, whether it was going back, to do a PhD and the impact of corporate philanthropy in the arts. And in that research, I came across Business for the Arts, and that's where I am right now. And it's been about 6.5 years.
And can you explain a little bit more about the organization and how it does merge the two sectors?
Sure. So the whole premise of Business for the Arts is, we were founded in 1974. The idea behind the organization is that, our private sector business leaders have a vested interest in ensuring that our cultural community in Canada thrives and is alive and well and continues to grow. So our board is made up of business leaders and philanthropists who themselves are heavily invested in the arts and believe in the arts. Current CEOs of companies and former CEOs across Canada. And the operations of the organization are to help arts and culture organizations find board members from the business community. So we have a broad network of business professionals who reach out to us to say, we're interested in volunteering in the arts and getting involved on a board. Can you help connect us? So we're very much a connector on that front for the arts and culture community. We also help arts and culture organizations find investors from the business communities and vice versa. So if a company says we're very interested in sponsoring the arts, they can come to us, and vice versa with an arts and culture organization. If they're looking for private sector support, we have a number of programs and initiatives that help them do that. One of the challenges, I suppose, that we have facing the arts and culture sector in Canada and many sectors is that public sector funding is not as effusive as, say, it was in the 70s, for example. So as a nonprofit organization, as a cultural organization, whether you're small or big, we cannot rely on just public sector funds, because we won't survive. So it's a combination for an arts organization, let's say for performing arts organization or a theater group. It's a combination of securing that public sector funding, of meeting your earned revenue targets, which is ticket sales and what other concessions you're able to sell, and your private sector support, which includes private sector donations as well as sponsorships. And that's the area that has more potential for growth than your public sector support. We are doing our best, to ensure that the public sector funding stays consistent, but the room for growth is obviously less there within the public sector than it is within private sector support.
And I guess with a lot of governments looking to make cuts, usually the arts are one of the first places they will look to. Now, with those cuts taking place in government budgets, has the private sector sort of stepped up and sort of covered that shortfall?
Yes. I mean, we have seen tremendous growth on the private sector front, especially with individual donations and also with corporate support. For example, if we were to look at arts education in our schools, the arts education tends to suffer, and so many of our schools. So what's happening is that our kids are not growing up with the arts in their lives, and if their families are not able to provide this sort of access, whether it's financial or just not something that they're engaged with, then you have a whole slew of children out there who have not had access to, whether it's music in their lives, or learning to play an instrument, learning how to paint, having those drama classes. This is all fundamental to what it is to be a fully rounded human being, right? And we're removing that from our schools. And it's a financial problem. So yes, so to answer your question, there are many companies who recognize this. And I'll just give you one example. I'm on the TELUS community board, where we are able to give out just over $700,000 a year to community projects. And it ranges from the arts to social needs to health. What we're really seeing as a big issue is the need for support for children and the arts and arts education. So, for example, we had our Business for the Arts AGM. We showcased Moshe Hammer's group, which is called From Violence to Violins. So he was given TELUS investment, and he was able to take his program into, I think he's in about 30 schools now, seeing hundreds of kids. He's giving them free lessons. Moshe Hammer is one of our most gifted violinists in the country, and he's decided to do this. We had a few kids from, I think it was the Regent Park School, come and perform for our guests, and they were so proud. They were like 8 years old. Wow. So proud standing there in front of all of us, and we were all, business types, and and they were so confident. They were up there on that stage, and they played their Twinkle Twinkle Little Star with so much love and passion. One of the little boys had a blue violin. It was super cool.
Oh,
this was not something they were embarrassed by at all. And they bowed, and they had learned through this experience to have a sense of pride, confidence, and in a very, intimidating environment for most kids, and they knew how to cope. And this is where I think that our arts training is so important, because like sport, it's teaching kids a discipline, bringing them to a sense of pride and accomplishment in what they're able to achieve. It's allowing them to have these experiences where they're on stage in front of a whole bunch of people. If you start this at a young age, then all those conferences you have to give, whether you're a CEO of whatever, that experience growing up being in front of an audience all the time is very helpful, because then you don't get those nerves that haunt you later on. There's a lot to be said for what companies are doing. That's just one example. A lot of these companies and the community investment portfolios that companies run are quite substantial, and the people running them, it's almost like they're running mini nonprofits, and they are. They're running foundations within these national companies, and they are so passionate about what they're doing, and they believe so much in these causes. So it's been a very good experience for me, being trained as on the artist side, to see the business side of things as well, and seeing how much can be done when the private sector gets involved. It's very, very inspiring, actually.
And that is very inspiring. And during that part where you mentioned the kids, you mentioned they came from Regent Park.
Yeah.
Now, are a lot of the companies, and even with Business of the Arts and the initiatives that they have put forward, do they support kids in at-risk communities and places like Regent Park or Jane and Finch area?
Yeah.
And how are they going in and getting these kids involved so that, Violence to Violins and programs such as that can continue?
I would say that this is one of the key priorities right now for many of the companies that I'm seeing and working with. the Jane and Finch area. And in fact, there are so many areas. I think the City of Toronto has identified 33. We've actually had to grow the number of areas of focus that all of our kids have the same access.
So then one of the programs that Business of the Arts has is called Art Scene. How does that work?
So Art Scene is about engaging young business leaders, so people who have just graduated or mid-career. We have Art Scene volunteers who are made up of that sort of group, so they're younger business leaders, and they host monthly events. Really, the purpose is to start to engage our business leadership at the beginning of their career growth.
Now, is there also a way for these young professionals to plug into some of the communities that you were speaking to, getting them engaged with the younger kids and making sure that art is part of their lives as they grow up?
Yes, exactly. So the deeper level engagement piece is when they start connecting to our BoardLink program. And this is where we help connect these young professionals to board-level experiences with arts organizations, and many of them are doing this kind of community work I've talked about.
So for more information, where can listeners go?
Well, I think the best source of information is businessforthearts.org. People should also know that we're rolling out our Arts Fest matching grant program across the country. And so if there are arts organizations, let's say in Ontario, we're in 5 municipalities every year, and you can apply for a grant which can be matched if you secure a sponsorship for that match, and it's up to about $20,000 that you could get. And that comes with sponsorship training as well.
Thank you so much, Nichole.
Well, you're welcome. It's a pleasure to talk to you.
Thank you so much, and all the best with the organization.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Okay.
And that was Nichole Anderson, President and CEO of Business for the Arts. And for more information, once again, you can go to www.businessforthearts.org. I'm Alicia Williams, and that's your Independent Arts Report.